just turned sour amberella and dragon fruit into profit. But as the village whispers about CEO Quang and her grow louder, will her hard-earned money become her biggest trouble? Hello everyone, I hope you're having a wonderful day. Today we'll follow Linda working alone on the mountain, cleaning the garden, feeding the chickens, and hustling to resell fruit for a living. If you enjoy the story, don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next episode. By noon, Linda had already turned a bag of sour amberella and a basket of dragon fruit into profit. Yet one whisper in the market could erase everything. CEO Quang is rich, and Linda, she's only lucky because of him. Morning fog wrapped the mountain house like a thin blanket. Linda stepped outside, sleeves rolled up, and forced her hands to move before her heart could start thinking. She cleared weeds along the garden edge, pulled out dead vines, and tied up a sagging bamboo fence. The work was simple, good, honest work, until her mind drifted back to the day she met CEO Quang's mother. The woman's voice had been calm, not harsh, but heavy, like someone who had seen too much. Linda remembered the way she was looked at. Gentle, yet measuring. Not the kind of gaze that insults you openly, but the kind that silently asks, "Who are you, really? And what do you want from my son?" Linda shook the thought off and walked to the chicken coop. The hens rushed forward, flapping and pecking. She scattered feed, watching them fight over grains, and somehow it reminded her of people. Everyone looks peaceful until there's something to gain. She didn't allow herself to stand still for long. Stillness invited longing, and longing pulled her straight back to Quang's absence. Today, she had a plan. She checked the small notebook she kept hidden in the kitchen drawer. Prices, weights, names of sellers, and places where she could sell again for a little profit. It wasn't a big business. It was survival with math. Linda tied her hair, grabbed 2 woven baskets, and started downhill. The path was cold and steep, but Linda knew every rock like an old enemy. She visited a neighbor first, an older auntie who had a small tree of sour amberella hanging heavy with fruit. "How much today?" Linda asked softly. The auntie hesitated, then named a price that was fair, almost too fair. Linda paid in full without bargaining too hard. She didn't want people saying she used power or pressure. She wanted them to say the opposite. Linda pays clean, Linda pays right. House by house, she collected what she could. A bag of amberella here, a handful of forest produce there, then dragon fruit from a family who had just harvested early. But the questions came anyway. "Linda, you go down to the market a lot now. Business is good? And CEO Quang, he really has money, right? Is he helping you?" Linda smiled, polite, controlled. "I'm helping myself," she replied, voice steady. Some nodded, pretending to believe her. Others exchanged a look that said, "Sure, of course." By late morning, Linda reached the village market. The air smelled like wet soil, ripe fruit, and people's curiosity. She set her baskets down and began selling. Small portions, quick turns, honest weights. A little profit here, a little profit there. It worked. For a moment, Linda felt almost proud. Not because the money was big, but because it was hers. Then the whispering started. At first, it was behind her, like background noise. "CEO Quang is rich. She lives up on the mountain. Now she's suddenly trading fruit. Don't you see? She's connected." A woman passed by, pretending to inspect dragon fruit, and murmured loudly enough to sting. "If you have a CEO behind you, even rocks become gold." Someone laughed. Linda's fingers tightened around the scale. She wanted to turn around, to ask them plainly, "Do you know how cold it is up there? Do you know how hard it is to carry baskets down that road? But she didn't. Linda swallowed it down the way poor people learn to swallow things. Quietly, because noise costs too much. A customer approached, hesitant. She glanced at Linda, then at the gossiping group. "Is this yours?" the customer asked, almost like she was asking permission from the crowd. "Yes," Linda said, meeting her eyes. "Fresh. Good price. You can check." The customer bought a small bag and walked off quickly, as if afraid to be seen. Linda kept selling, kept smiling, kept counting. But the market felt different now, like every coin had a shadow attached. On the way back, her baskets were lighter, but her chest felt heavier. As she passed a group of villagers near the road, she heard her name again. "Linda, CEO Quang, rich man. She'll climb fast, or she'll fall fast." Linda didn't look at them. She didn't slow down. Up the mountain path, the wind grew sharper. Her legs burned, but she refused to stop. Because if she stopped, she might cry. And she hated crying where people could see. When she finally reached home, the sun was already leaning low. She fed the chickens again, washed her hands, and started cooking. She sliced a few sour ambarella, prepared a simple meal, and set one bowl on the table. Only one. The silence in the kitchen was so loud it made her remember Quang even more. Not his face, just the idea of having someone sit across from you, ask if you're tired, tell you the world isn't allowed to step on you. Linda stared at her small stack of cash, profit earned from sweat and steps, and realized the cruel truth. Today, she didn't just earn money, she earned attention. And attention in a village is never free. Linda lowered her head, her voice barely a whisper to herself. If they already talk like this, what will they do when my profit becomes bigger? Outside, the wind rattled the bamboo fence she fixed that morning, like a warning knocking at her door. Morning arrived without warmth. Linda woke before the chickens, not because she wanted to, but because sleep refused to hold her. The whispers from yesterday had crawled into her dreams and turned into voices that wouldn't shut up. She washed her face with cold water, tied her hair, and stood in front of the small mirror for a second longer than usual. Not to admire herself, just to check if her eyes looked weak. They didn't. She stepped outside. The garden looked cleaner from yesterday's work. The fence stood straighter, and the mountain air was sharp enough to sting. Linda should have felt proud, but pride was dangerous when people were waiting for you to trip. She fed the chickens, then opened her notebook again. Today she planned to buy a little more, if she could. A bigger basket meant bigger profit, and bigger profit meant bigger talk. Linda hesitated at the doorway, thinking again about CEO Quang's mother. That woman's voice hadn't been cruel. It had been controlled, like someone offering a warm drink while quietly checking if the cup could be poisoned. "Do business clean," Linda heard in her mind. "Don't let anyone hold your weakness." Linda exhaled slowly. "Then I won't give them any," she murmured. Down the mountain path, the village looked awake earlier than usual. Or maybe Linda was just noticing the eyes more now. At the first house, a farmer who used to smile at her didn't smile today. "You're buying again?" he asked, tone flat. "Yes," Linda replied. "Same price as yesterday." He leaned back against the doorframe. "Same price? Even though you sell higher down there?" Linda's grip tightened on her basket handle. "I sell higher because I carry it down. I stand there all day and I take the risk. If you want to sell directly, you can." worse. An auntie who used to be kind suddenly lifted her chin and said, "If CEO Quang is so rich, why do you even need this small profit?" Linda forced a soft smile. "Because I eat rice, not rumors." The auntie laughed, but it wasn't friendly. "You talk brave for someone living on a mountain alone." That sentence landed too close to home. Linda nodded politely, still paying full price. She wrote the amount in her notebook, making sure the auntie saw. She wanted them to understand something. She wasn't sneaking. She wasn't stealing. She was building a life with her own hands. By late morning, Linda reached the market again. She chose a different spot today, closer to a fruit stall, where customers moved faster. She arranged the ambarella neatly, the dragon fruit stacked in a clean pyramid. A few people stopped. Some bought. Most stared. Then she heard it again, louder this time. Linda thinks she's smart. She's using the CEO's name to get trust. Watch her. People like that climb fast. A man near the tea stall added, half joking. Maybe she's practicing to become the CEO's wife. Laughter. Linda didn't laugh. She turned to the first woman who had spoken and said clearly, "My fruit is here. My price is here. If you don't want to buy, you don't have to. But don't speak about things you don't know." The market fell quiet for a beat. Not because they respected her, because they didn't expect her to answer. The woman scoffed. "Oh? Then tell us. Why does a poor mountain girl suddenly start trading like this? You learned business overnight." Linda held her gaze. "No. I learned hunger. Hunger teaches faster than school." Someone muttered, "She's sharp." Someone else muttered, "Sharp girls are dangerous." The tension broke when a customer walked up and bought 2 bags without looking at anyone else. Then another customer followed. A small ripple of sales came back, slow but real. And in that moment, Linda understood something she hadn't yesterday. People didn't only gossip because they hated her, they gossiped because she was changing. Change threatened the comfort of their old judgments. By afternoon, Linda counted her money quietly. The profit was slightly higher than yesterday, still small in the world, but huge for her. As she packed up, a woman from another stall leaned in and spoke in a lower voice, less mocking, more curious. "Linda, just be careful. When they can't control you, they'll try to stain you." Linda looked at her. "Why tell me?" The woman shrugged. "Because you're alone up there, and because they're already linking you to CEO Quang. That kind of story, it spreads fast." Linda didn't respond. She simply nodded, thanked her, and lifted her baskets. On the way back up the mountain, her arms ached and her legs shook, but her spine stayed straight. At home, she fed the chickens and started cooking again. Sour ambarella became a simple dish. A few slices of dragon fruit were placed on a small plate. Like a treat, she almost didn't allow herself. She sat down in front of the single bowl, alone again. The silence returned, but this time it didn't crush her. It challenged her. Linda opened her notebook and wrote every number neatly. She counted her cash twice, then placed it into a small tin box under the bed. Not because she didn't trust herself, because she had learned the world didn't like poor people having money. She glanced toward the corner where that old jacket still hung. No CEO Quang today. No voice. No comfort. Just her. Linda whispered. Not to anyone else. Only to her own heart. If they want to talk, let them talk. Tomorrow I'll still walk down that road. I'm not selling fruit. I'm selling proof that I can stand on my own. Outside, the wind moved through the bamboo fence again. But this time, it sounded less like a warning, and more like applause from a mountain that had seen too many people give up.
nghi có kẻ trộm rình quanh nhà. CEO Quang ghé đến lắng nghe và trấn an sự và tự sửa chiếc camera cũ trong kho, kéo dây lắp trước sân nhà để bảo vệ cô. Đêm đến, Linda nấu cơm nếp cẩm mời anh ở lại ăn. Hai người trò chuyện lòng ấm lại. Qua Quang kể áp lực công ty, camera nháy sáng, bóng lạ thoáng qua, và không biết Linda có sống sót qua được đêm nay không. Mọi người nếu thấy video hay, hãy cho mình một like, một subscribe. Cảm ơn mọi người nhé.